Hello traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix, and I want to welcome you to the week ahead video for February 6th, 2017. I want to talk about a few different things, but today in particular, we want to talk about the dollar index. And so I'm going to take you over to the traffic light page for ForexAnalytix, and you'll notice just by a quick glance at the major currencies that we have here, you'll notice that a lot of our analysis is pointing towards dollar weakness. You look at the dollar-based currencies like the dollar Swiss, dollar Canadian, dollar Norwegian krona. You see some of the bearish outlooks, whether you're talking about Elliott wave or harmonics or basic technical analysis, it's all starting to bleed through. And if you look at the dollar index as a whole, and I want to take you over actually to the weekly chart of the dollar index, you'll notice that we broke through the breakout point. The breakout point that we had at the end of last year. The dollar hasn't performed as well as a lot of traders had expected, especially with the new administration coming in. So the dollar is actually showing a lot of weakness here. Now, that also complements what we're seeing in the precious metals market. I'm going to take you over to silver really quick. If you look at silver, silver has staged a pretty big breakout of a downtrend channel that we see here. We've broken through some pretty key levels of resistance as we came through 1720. Keep an eye on silver because silver has been one of those asset classes that as the dollar has rallied into new highs, silver hasn't broken into new lows. So between silver and gold, which is looking pretty firm as well, they are complementing that dollar weakness that we're seeing. Now, we do have a couple central banks that are meeting this week. We have the RBA. They're on Monday night. Okay. And we also actually, at the open on Sunday evening here in North America, but Monday morning in Australia, we have retail sales. So we have the RBA meeting this week. We have the RBNZ meeting on Wednesday. Now, that's Wednesday in North America, Thursday morning in New Zealand. But take a look at the Aussie. The Aussie has taken out, and let's go over to the weekly. We've taken out a pretty massive downtrend line, and we had a spike high above this trend line back at the end of last year, but we're approaching some pretty key resistance that could really trigger some stop loss orders for bears. So that means the bulls could really take the upper hand here. And if you look at go back to the daily chart though, here's the daily chart. The relative strength is getting a little overbought. Now, the market can always become more overboughter, if you will, meaning that just because something's overbought doesn't mean it won't stop. But we do have to take note of that. You can see the RSI here on the daily charts getting a little overbought, and I'm assuming if we go through this resistance here, around 79 or 77.50, 78 cents, it may squeeze higher, but we're going to get to a point where it becomes dangerously overbought. Now, also take a look at, let me close this out. Let's take a look at the Kiwi. The Kiwi dollar has also stopped at the underside of a trend line. You can see this massive trend line on the weekly, and it comes in around 73.50, maybe 74 cents. The Kiwi has been capped here, but with the central banks, both the RBA and the RBNZ meeting this week, there's a good chance that we could break higher, especially if they're just not as dovish as the market's expecting. Now, one currency pair that we don't cover at ForexAnalytix, we do from time to time, but we haven't in recent weeks, is the Australian New Zealand. Now, this is a currency pair that I really enjoy trading. And I think that the Australian New Zealand is really trying to take the turn higher on a longer term basis. It's been beat down, quite a bit for the last couple of years. But you'll notice that if you go over to the daily chart, we're approaching not only a trend line but the 200 DMA. Now, if we can get a foothold above the 200 period simple moving average, or the 200 moving averages, this is one of the most common that most traders look at, we could see a squeeze higher in the Aussie New Zealand. Now, that would we'd have to see a shift between the RBA and the RBNZ, where the RBNZ is maybe a little bit more dovish and maybe the RBA is a little bit more hawkish, for that really to take place. Because the flip side is we could really reject the 200 period moving average and move right back into this, this wedge that's being developed here. But it's something that we should keep an eye on. especially for those of us that do tend to trade the Australia and New Zealand. Like I said, this week is going to be a pretty busy week with two central banks that are meeting. We also have trade balance out of China on Thursday night. We have Canadian employment, which, by the way, last currency pair I'm going to take you to is going to be the Canadian dollar. If you look at the dollar Canadian and you look on the weekly chart, we have decisively closed below this long-standing uptrend line, and we're just above 130 because of you know uh, President Donald Trump and his new administration, all the the talk about NAFTA and how they want to renegotiate that. A lot of people think that that's going to be bearish the Canadian, but the market's showing us differently. The market's showing that the Canadian is actually strengthening, and price is telling us that the Canadian is strengthening. And I think this particular currency pair, and I mentioned it last week as well, has the potential to catch traders off guard. And if we start decisively getting below 130, we could start trading towards the mid 125s, maybe challenge the support from last summer. I think that is very possible in this market. This is going to be your week ahead video from ForexAnalytix. My name is Blake Morrow. Make sure when you get an opportunity, take advantage of our 10-day trial for $1. All you have to do is go to our homepage and enroll. And we'll see you next week. Thank you very much for listening in. Have a great trading week.